Population of Europe is not declining. Why? Immigration. Islamic immigration. Of all population growth in Europe since 1990, 90% has been Islamic immigration. France, 1.8 children per family. Muslims, 8.1. In southern France, traditionally one of the most populated church regions in the world, there are now more mosques than churches. 30% of children ages 20 and younger are Islamic.
Diese Physiognomien widerlegen schlagend die liberalistische Theorie von der Gleichheit alles dessen, was Menschenantlitz trägt.
A European Union of 31 countries, the fertility is a mere 1.38. Historical research tells us these numbers are impossible to reverse. In a matter of years, Europe as we know it will cease to exist.
Noch Kaftanträger und nun in westeuropäischer Kleidung, bereit, sich in die westliche Zivilisation einzuschleichen.
The way. The German government, the first to talk about this publicly, recently released a statement saying, "The fall in the German population can no longer be stopped. Its downward spiral is no longer reversible. It will be a Muslim state by the year 2050.
Wir erkennen, dass hier ein Pestherd liegt, der die Gesundheit der arischen Völker bedroht. Richard Wagner hat einmal gesagt, der Jude ist der plastische Dämon des Verfalls der Menschheit. Und diese Bilder bestätigen die Richtigkeit seines Ausspruchs.
And also because they want to be seen as doing something when they're not doing the thing which they ought to do, namely to withdraw the troops. They're now demonizing our Muslim fellow citizens, and we must not stand for it. The values on which this country is founded are under threat. Racial prejudice, because it is a racial prejudice masquerading as religious or political prejudice. Racial prejudice is stalking the land, and encouragement to it is being given by ministers of state. Ministers of state who should try and stop it are fomenting it. What can you say when a minister of state now talks about, teaching British values to immigrant communities, when these British values are being negated by the very government of which he is a part? When our civil liberties in the name of fighting this so-called terrorist threat are being eroded? But the fact that a policy is bankrupt doesn't mean that politicians are justified in blaming another racial group or another community. Islamophobia is a cover for racism. It's a cover for racism which we must not tolerate, and which we must expose.
The UN seriously. Seriously. I bet you could have talked sense into Hitler, I'm going to just break this up really quick. That first part, I bet you could talk sense to Hitler. Okay, well, that's kind of what this is all about. It's this idea that there are a number of folks out there who now believe that they have an intractable foe in all of Muslims, in the way that Hitler was an intractable foe. You know what I mean? I mean, that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about anything else. I'm not interested in anything else. What I'm interested in is that there is a perception that is growing towards a community of people that they are an intractable foe. That's disturbing to me. And you know, what else? Let's say what else you got here. I must say I never thought I could despise anyone more than I hate the far right in the U.S. But you, blanking, trite, chirping, self-indulgent flake, I don't believe you actually have the capacity of sincerity or facing reality. So, in love with the idea of yourself as tragically enlightened, I'd like to kick you in the nuts. It would be very zen. Well, I like your prose. Don't get me wrong. You write with a a nice cadence there. But let me just explain this to you. I'm 32 years old. I don't know how old you are, but I read the paper, and I have read the paper every day for 20-something years. I read books. I'm not saying, oh, look at me, I read books. But I mean, I don't know what you're doing, is what I guess is what I'm trying to say. Because everything I've ever read, every story that you read in the paper, it's a revolving door of the same thing. Okay? The world is constantly, like, there's these little eruptions all over the globe, all the time, of violence. Sometimes it's ethnic cleansing. And there's these little pockets of violence that pop up. People trying to figure out a way to solve an intolerable situation through violence. And man, it's not that I shrink away from conflict. When I read that, I mean, my first reaction was that I'd like to choke you. I mean, you know, and I would be perfectly happy to physically assault you. It would be a meaningless gesture, though. Ultimately, you might actually be a good guy who, I could reason with. You know, if I react to that first negative reaction, if that's my only thing, if I'm going to stick with that and that's it, then, you know, we just have a world full of people punching each other in the face constantly, which is practically what we've got. And dude, 32 years I've been here. It's not a long time, but it's been a freaking long time to watch the same shit happen over and over. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you guys think that there's this huge threat and that I'm tragically enlightened.
I'm sorry, Daddy.
You don't have to be, sweetie. Good grief, man. I don't want to leave. I just don't want the world to blow up. That's all. Trite. Yeah, I'm trite. You know, I mean, but dude, I mean, I really do care. This isn't what I do. I'm not a cool internet kid, you know. I'm an old man. I'm just saying what I think, okay? So, you know, I'd like to kick him in the... Please, you wouldn't be the first one.